Please, if you are here live, jump into the chat box, say hello. If you are new, hi Ruth. If you are new to the Sky High Coaching world, the Sky High Coaching community, we all welcome you with open arms. If you have been in the Sky High Coaching community for a while, then welcome back. I am so happy to see you again. Whether you're here live or whether you're here watching the replay, I am so happy, so thrilled, so pleased, so grateful, so humbled that you led yourself to this masterclass and you made the decision to register. Worthy at Work, a free masterclass for new and emerging leaders. So we're going to be diving into a couple of questions today. The first one being, is it really possible to slay your self-doubt and lead with the courage and poise of a lioness without years of experience, rock solid confidence, and compromising your personal values? And has this woman, Janelle Ryan, really helped hundreds of others around the world do this already? If you can stay until the end, if you do stay until the end, I have some bonus resources, and these resources alone have the power to elevate your career and your journey into leadership. So hang around until the end and I'll be able to get those bonuses out to you. What I'm about to share today has the capacity to change your career and thus change your life. We spend such a big part of our lives at work. So of course, it makes complete sense. Level up your career, you're going to level up your life. Now, whether or not the information I share with you today changes your life or not is really up to you. It's down to you. It's your choice. It's your decision whether you take this information, take these tools I'm going to share with you today and use them. You're going to take them, you're going to use them. And then when you walk back into work later today or tomorrow, you do something different. You behave differently. You think differently. You act differently. You feel differently. You make a change. Or you can be sitting here right now with kind of one ear in here and one on your email and one on your phone and not ready to take any notes. Or maybe you take all the notes you can. Maybe you could transcribe. Maybe you could be the transcriber of this masterclass. You take so many notes, but then you don't take any action. You don't do anything differently, which means we don't do anything differently. Nothing different happens. We don't make a change. Nothing changes. So it's really up to you. My invitation for you today, I encourage you to be all in. I just read a message, sorry. Hi, Michelle, guilty of transcribing and not doing anything differently. Right. Okay, so this is for you, Michelle. This is for you. This is your invitation right now to be all in. You have made a choice to be here. You are here, so you may as well be present. Use the time. If you haven't opened the chat box yet and said hi, please do. I'm going to be asking you to do some little things in the chat box as we go along. So open that up now so you're all ready to go. Hey, Lisa, grab your notepad, grab your pen, be ready to take some notes, but not only what I say, probably more importantly, the ahas or the light bulb moments or the insights that come up for you as we move through this information. So today I'm going to be sharing 3 principles that have the power to elevate your career. I'm just going to move that little chat box. Come on, little chat box. There we go. So principle number 1 is how to silence imposter syndrome like Lucy. Can you believe this? Lucy's very first leadership role, right? Very first leadership role was at the beginning of the pandemic. Can you believe how stressful that would have been? We're already feeling a little shaky in our shoes because we're in our very first leadership role, and then a global pandemic hits. And she worked in an industry that had to respond, she's Australian, that had to respond to our government's in and out lockdowns. So the organization, the industry she worked in, every time the government made a new decision about whether we were in lockdown or out of lockdown, or what that lockdown would look like, or whether it was extended, she had to respond, and she had to respond fast. She was struggling, and thankfully, and I'm so pleased, she shared with a colleague that she was struggling in her new role, and her colleague was a client of mine. And her colleague gave her my card and said, ring Janelle. And within weeks, we had unlocked that powerful leader within her that had been craving to emerge. When we're new in leadership, sometimes we know it wants to come out. We're not quite sure how to bring it out, but it is possible. We can silence that imposter syndrome. And I'm not going to dive in here now because we'll talk about this in a moment. But I am just so thrilled that Lucy picked up the phone, and within weeks, she was handling her new leadership role during a global pandemic with poise, grace, ease, and courage. The second principle we're going to dive into today is how to ooze poise and confidence even when we're not really feeling it, like the beautiful Lisa, who said, I've gained more confidence and assertiveness, and overall I am all patient. And last year she was crowned, some people would say awarded, I like crowned, leader of the year within her organization. Can you imagine? Can you imagine working for a huge organization and you are doing so well in your leadership that they crown you leader of the year? Oozing poise and confidence. And the third principle, I'm just going to keep that up my sleeve at the moment. It's a little bit of a secret, but it is the one critical competency that if you nail this, will elevate your career. And it is also the number one competencies organizations are looking for during their recruitment process right now. Like Catherine. When Catherine came to me, she had been internally promoted into quite a high level leadership role. And she came to me because she was feeling a little shaky in her boots, and she was looking for someone to walk beside her while she navigated these challenges in her new leadership role. And she was also going from colleague to boss, right? So that has its own challenges in itself. Now, we worked together for quite a long time, and within 1 year, she'd been promoted again. So can you imagine that? I'm feeling a little shaky in my leadership role, but I'm going to embrace my strengths and my gifts, and I'm going to really embody this critical competency that Janelle's talking to me about. And within a year, she was promoted again. Amazing. So this masterclass is really designed for new and emerging leaders. And it was really designed for women, but I've noticed some men have registered. Everyone is welcome here. That's absolutely fine. And if you are not a new leader, you've been in leadership a while and you're here to up level, fantastic. And for emerging leaders, we know that leadership's our next step. That's where we want to go. But if you're a new leader, let me know in the chat box, put an N if you're a new leader. You're sick of long hours and a lack of balance, because you're working longer and harder than everybody else because you want to prove that you're worthy of this role. You're sick of feeling like a fraud, an imposter. I shouldn't really be here. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm full of self-doubt. I've pulled the wool over somebody's eyes, and I'm afraid that someone's going to find out. You may be feeling unsure or confused. I was craving a leadership role and now I'm here. What do I do now? I remember all these feelings. And you may be feeling unsupported because here's the thing. Maybe your organization never had the capacity to offer you a mentor or someone who would help you, cultivate your leadership skills. But maybe you do work for an organization that had all the greatest intentions in the world of mentoring and developing you. But you know what? The world is still changing. And as so many of us know, a lot of organizations right now are working with a very lean workforce. And these people who maybe and probably truly want to help you, they are just feeling as overwhelmed, as uncertain, as confused. You know, they've got a huge workload also, and they're just not finding the time. But most of all, you're sick of feeling afraid that someone's, you know, your upper leadership has realized you don't really know what you're doing, or maybe even you're even more fearful about the team you lead are all sitting around behind your back saying to each other, oh, we don't think she really knows what she's doing. What does this mean for us? You want to know how to feel more confident, competent, courageous in your leadership and get your life back. Stop working these really long hours to prove you're worthy, and be able to, you know, to get back, immerse yourself back in those activities that are for you, and spend time with your friends and your family. If you are an emerging leader, this is what you're sick of. You're sick of not feeling good enough. You're sick of coming second in the interviews. Maybe you've been on the recruitment roundabout for a while, and you put your best foot forward, you prepare for the interviews, and you keep coming second. And no one's even giving you really constructive feedback. You know, they're just saying, there was just someone a little bit more experienced than you. You interviewed really well. We just decided that this person was a little bit more aligned with the role. It's so frustrating, and you feel stuck, and you're sick of feeling stuck. Now, when we're applying for roles and we're not getting them, we're not being offered them, well, that's going to shake our confidence a little bit, isn't it? Because if I'm you know, always unsuccessful, then why would I keep applying? Because now I'm kind of getting a little bit afraid that it's never going to happen for me. And can we just stop for a moment and talk about the time it takes to apply for roles? And if you've been on this recruitment roundabout for a while, you know, reaching for your first leadership role, and it hasn't been happening, you're probably using up a whole lot of your time. And you're probably getting sick of that, and you want your time back. You want to know how to shine in your next interview, so you are given the role, so that someone gives you the chance that you're looking for, so that you can prove yourself and bring value to that team and that organization. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is all sounding pretty good so far. She seems to know what she's talking about, but will this work in my industry? This is a list of the industries that my clients, every client I have served since I started Sky High Coaching, has worked in one of those industries and more. I couldn't fit them all on the page. So if you can see your industry in here, give us a yes. If you can't see your industry in here, let me know what your industry is. I would absolutely love to know. What I'm sharing with you today is applicable, it's transferable. We can use it across any industry. Now you might be thinking, she's clearly Australian. She's clearly in Australia. She's got the nice Australian twang. I'm not Australian, and I'm not in Australia. You're probably watching it on the replay right now. Will this work for me, not being Australian and working in my country? Well, this is a list of the countries, the areas, the continents that my clients reside in. So what I am sharing with you today is applicable, is transferable across so many continents and countries. If your continent or country or area is in here today and on this list, give me a yes in the chat box. If it isn't, let me know where you are. I would really, really, really love to know. Now, you have a dream. You have a dream to create a more positive impact for you, your team, your organization, your industry, via your inspirational, authentic, effective leadership. And guess what? You want to feel fulfilled and healthy and happy while you're doing it, and you want to be well rewarded, right? But here's the thing, you've been told you can't without dressing and looking a particular way. True story. True story. A woman came to me quite a while ago now, and she was looking for a CEO role. She was ready to go to the top of the tree in her industry. She went to see one of those business fashion experts, who are consultants, who I'm sure do a very good job. But she was told, if you keep dressing like this, you'll never get a CEO role. Well, guess what? She's on about her 5th CEO role now. She's highly respected in her industry. She's highly sought after in her industry, and she's never put a corporate suit on in her entire life. We've been told we can't without having a particular qualification, usually something like an MBA. You've been told you can't without withholding parts of yourself. Now, I have a personal story. My very first leadership role, I was pulled into an office by someone in the organization, into this little meeting room, and he actually said to me, this part of you, this thing, can you just keep that in? Can you just, I don't think you should be bringing that out. What? It's part of me. And guess what? I didn't. And I did pretty well after that in my career, and I'm doing pretty well so far. You've been told you can't without being okay with being paid less. That is changing. You've been told you can't without sacrificing. You'll have to sacrifice some time with your family, and don't think you'll be out doing these things for yourself because you're just not going to have enough time. And you've been told you can't without someone having gone before you. You can't possibly desire and be moving towards XYZ because no one has done that yet. There is no precedent. So why do you think you can do that? That's not true either. I have clients all the time moving in areas in their career where there hasn't been footsteps. Someone hasn't been before them. We've made that happen. You can have the role you love, be making the impact you want to make, being paid the amount you want to be paid, and have the time to look after yourself and have the time to spend with your friends and your family. Once you learn how to own, use, and leverage your worth, my goal today is to show you your worth. Now, I know I'm speaking really quickly. I want to cram as much value as I can into the time we have. So you get this on replay. If you want to just stay involved with me in the chat box and not take notes, you're going to get this on replay. I've got you. It's all good. So I have a request for you today. Promise yourself, if I can prove that owning your worth can change everything for you, your career and your life, you'll go all in. What does going all in look like? I have spent most of my life, if not all of my life, going all in. So all in looks like applying to go to university and sitting a huge frightening exam when I didn't finish high school, accepting a job to cook for up to 40 people at a time on coaches while traveling all over Europe, part of Scandinavia, part of Africa, when I could hardly make toast. My old flatmate that I used to live with laughed her head off when I said I had this job. She actually told me I couldn't cook. She was right at the time. Going all in was being single for a really long time and living alone for probably about a decade, and then meeting a man in my early 40s, falling in love, getting married, and becoming like a stepmama. And the kids were very young when we first met and got married. So I got catapulted into that role. And going all in, I was all in though. And going all in is also when I left the job I loved, the team I loved, the industry I loved, but I felt the pull and I left that organization to start Sky High Coaching. This is what going all in looks like. I found people to help me. I did courses. I went to classes, free things like this. I found mentors. I buddied up with people who could cook when I worked out on the road, and they helped me. They showed me what to do. I read books. Did I already say that? You know, now we can listen to podcasts and watch YouTube videos, and we couldn't back then. But this is what all in looks like. Now, probably most relevant to our conversation today is when I went all in my very, very, very first higher level leadership role. And I waited every day, I'm not even kidding, for my phone to ring. I was so afraid every day that my phone would ring and my boss would say, "We've realized you clearly have no idea what you're doing, and we're going to have to let you go." If anything that I'm talking about today resonates, please say yes, or put a Y in the chat box, or a me too, right? So, hi. If we have never met, if this is your first time seeing me in any capacity, my name is Janelle Ryan, and I love helping ambitious professionals expand their minds to new ways of thinking so they can collapse time. We want to do things faster around the creation of new possibilities and opportunities for themselves, then lead and inspire others. That's a mouthful. When I hack it right down, I'll cut it right down: expand, create, lead. Now, navigating the forest of how we can be all in our leadership, because there are so many courses, programs, masterclasses out there. Even when I'm really particular about the name I call my programs, those of you who have been in my world for a while would know that I put a lot of effort and energy because it has to be just the right name. And when I started creating leadership programs, it was really challenging to find a name for my leadership programs because so many were taken. They were taken or out there to have a great idea, a great name, Google it, gone, being used. So, oh, I just realized there's a typo there. So good thing I also released perfectionism a long time ago. So I had to navigate the forest. So I was navigating the forest when I was in my emerging leadership time. And then when I was a new leader, and then a current leader, and then a more evolved leader, I was still navigating the forest because I was always up leveling, always evolving, always learning. And then I navigated through. And then now I have clients come to me. And one thing I always ask someone when they come to me, if I haven't met them before, is what have you already tried? What have you already tried? And when they're coming to me for leadership coaching, they've often already been through some kind of program, and often it's been beautifully delivered by someone within the organization, or the organization has brought people in. And I love organizations that do that. If you're in an organization and they do that, it's really special because not all of them do. But then they end up coming to me. And these are some of the reasons why. This is what I found when I was navigating the forest, and this is what my clients have found. These programs are led by people who are amazing facilitators and teachers. They've never been in leadership. They don't really dive very deeply into the work-life balance. It's really just focused on the work part. It's not a current or contemporary program. Now, if a program was developed in leadership, if a program was developed before 2020, it's not current and it's not contemporary. The world has changed, industry has changed, and leaders have had to change with it. So we want things that have been developed after 2020. A lot of them focus really heavily on the technical skills. Can you do X, Y, Z? Yes, no, well, this is how you do it. If you can't do it, there's not a lot of focus on mindset, confidence, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, fraud complex, how we're actually feeling within ourselves, which also goes back to the work-life balance. Sometimes they're very industry focused, and clients have told me they can't transfer into another, they can't sort of transfer what they learned into another industry because it's been a very industry focused course. This is a big one, and I found this a lot as well. Some leadership programs have been developed by extraordinary people, you know, very successful people that made it to the very, very top of the tree. they're very accomplished. They've been at the top of the tree for so long, however, they actually can't remember what it was like to feel the fear and doubt that an emerging leader or a new leader feels. So a lot of people said to me, my clients say to me, I can't relate. They can't relate to me. So I navigated this forest the hard way. You being here, you're getting to do it the easy way. So I've been navigating this forest and moving through this forest for just over 20 years. Firstly, in my career, when I decided to go all in, I didn't want to feel afraid or like an imposter anymore. I wanted to really exceed in my leadership. Then when I started Sky High Coaching, it's almost like I even went, I kind of went more all in, because now I have a responsibility, because women just like you are coming to me for coaching. I needed to serve them powerfully, and I wanted to know how to serve them powerfully. So I spent 2 years. Not only did I take myself through more programs, and I took myself through a leadership program last year. So after 2020, I thought, okay, everything's changed. The world's changed. I've got to stay relevant. I have to stay relevant for my business, and I have to stay relevant for the women who come to me. And I put myself through a leadership course last year that was solely about how to lead through a pandemic and post a pandemic, right? It was amazing. So I'm bringing all of these things I've learned into here for you today. I also undertook a 2-year project where I interviewed over 200 women who other women had identified as inspirational, successful leaders. It wasn't supposed to go for 2 years, and it wasn't supposed to be 200 women. That wasn't the initial scope. But people just kept telling me about more women, and I was loving it. I was in these beautiful conversations. So, and I also started women leading events. So if you've been following me for a while, you probably have seen they were I did a lot before we all went into lockdowns, before the pandemic, because they were live, they were in person. And I'd bring a group of inspirational women who were leading in a particular industry into a room. And then we'd bring 20 or 25 women who were in that field and we'd just do an open Q&A. No presentations, no speeches. These women were so generous. They were generous with their time, these leaders, generous with their time and generous with their information. It was such an open, raw, honest, authentic, round circle communication. They talked about their fears, their challenges, their regrets, their messes, their failures, they gave advice. Such extraordinary evenings. And my interviews with over 200 women who were nominated by other women. Can you believe that? Women lifting up women, women pointing at women saying, she's amazing, she's incredible. You're interviewing women who are rocking it in leadership. You need to go and speak to her. It was extraordinary. But that's what my community is about. And those of you who have been in my community for a while know that we lift each other up. We are women lifting women. Now, my navigation of the forest has gone for about 20 years, and I wanted to put a cost on it. I don't even know, exceeds $100,000 easily. So I've done all the hard work for you. So let's go. Principle number 1, don't forget, jump into the chat box if anything's resonating. Me too. Yes, I know, I feel you. Principle number 1, how to silence imposter syndrome. Now, if you're a little unsure what imposter syndrome is, if you've never heard of it before, oh my goodness, yes, right? Yes. If you've never heard of it before, that's okay. I'm just going to tell you what it feels like. So imposter syndrome is when we're filled with self-doubt. Can we really do this? Am I really good enough? Should I really be here? Fraud complex is when we feel like a fraud. We've pulled the wool over someone's eyes. Someone's put us in this role, but you know what? I actually tricked them and I'm a bit of a fraud and I shouldn't really be here. the secret fears that we hold at work, mine being my phone's going to ring and my boss is going to fire me. Imposter syndrome can also appear like overwhelm because we're so unsure and so full of self-doubt about what to do next, or how to do this task, or what to say here, or how to lead this person, that the work piles up because we're not really doing anything. We're holding back too much. So now we start to feel overwhelmed. And the flip side is it leads to procrastination, because if you're not sure what to do next and you're completely overwhelmed, we tend to not do anything. Or we do the really easy things first and we leave those big pieces of work that frighten us a little bit to the side. We completely procrastinate on them. Now, what I'm going to invite you to do today is to ignore what you think you should do. So for the rest of the time we're together, we're going to open our minds to new ways of thinking. You are a dynamic, probably highly performing professional. You're definitely ambitious. So that's why you're here. You wouldn't be on the masterclass if you weren't. But here's the thing. The thinking that got you here is probably not the thinking that will get you there. So I want you to ignore what you think you should do. This is what I had to do when I was navigating my new and my emerging and new leadership roles. I had to think, right, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I've got to think differently. So this is Ellie the elephant. Ellie the elephant was a little baby elephant. She's all grown up now. And she resides with some humans who treat her very nicely and very well. Just want to make that very clear. And as a little baby elephant, Ellie was tethered by a little rope to a little peg in the ground. Now, she had lots of scope, lots of room. Don't worry, she was all green. But her humans that she lived with, her human family, didn't want her to stray too far away because they didn't want her to get lost or they didn't want her to get hurt. So at a very little baby elephant age, she realized that if she got to a certain point in the yard or the forest or the field, whatever you like to think of, that there was almost this invisible barrier, this invisible parameter, because her back leg would get tugged from the rope and the peg in the ground. So she learned very quickly, because elephants are very smart, she learned very quickly that there was an invisible barrier, an invisible wall that she could not go past. Now she's an adult elephant, and every now and then her human family attach her back to the peg because they don't want her to go out and hurt herself. Here's the thing. Can you see it? Ellie's a grown-up elephant now. Ellie could easily tug her leg and easily pull that peg out of the ground. But she has a belief that there's an invisible wall. She has a belief that there's a barrier to how far she can go. And this happens to us. We grow up and we somehow acquire these beliefs that there is only a certain amount of distance that we can go, that there are invisible barriers for us, that there are invisible boundaries and parameters that we can't move past. These are beliefs. They're in your mind. You have the ability to tug your leg and pull the peg out. If you leave with anything today, leave with that. Okay? You have the ability to pull the peg out and to move further than you ever have before. I really want you to know that. So remember, we're going to shake up what we think. So we're at work, we're in our new leadership role, or we're going for a leadership role, and maybe we're about to go into the interview. Let's stick within the role just for our purposes today. I know what it feels like because I was there, right? We think that if we hide this feeling like an imposter, this imposter syndrome, it'll just go away eventually. We think we've pulled the wool over someone's eyes, we've tricked them, right? We think we have to work longer or harder to prove ourselves. We assume the inner doubter is right. So what is your inner doubter? It's part of your imposter syndrome. The inner doubter is the voice that tells you you're not good enough, you're not experienced enough, you're not smart enough, you're not qualified enough, ... to be in this role. We assume it's right and we act accordingly. We also think we're alone, don't we? And everyone else is nailing it. Everyone else is so self-assured and everybody else knows what they're doing and everyone else is so much better than me. And we feel, you've got a yes there. Oh my goodness, yeah, another yes. We think we're alone and everyone else is nailing it. I remember all these feelings. I've had them so many times. I just told you all the ways I've been all in before in my life. This is the reality. And this is what I realized. The more I hid my imposter syndrome, the more stressful, worrying, and more work became, and more anxious I became at work, and it didn't make it leave, right? I learned that sacrificing my health and my home life actually caused other issues outside of work. The reality is assuming the inner doubter is right, is correct, the message is true, actually affected my performance in a really negative way. Think about it. If I'm walking around at work thinking that I'm not good enough, experienced enough, clever enough, as good as everybody else, how likely am I going to be this inspirational, effective, successful leader? Probably not much. And by not sharing it, by not telling anyone, by not finding someone who would help me through, I created the feelings of loneliness and isolation. So I want to introduce to you right now, grab your pen, your notepad. I'm just going to move that up a bit. I want to introduce you to the acceptance method. So this is a Janelle Ryan method. You won't see it anywhere else. Let's dive in. And remember, we're going to think differently. So the acceptance method is we're going to turn and we're going to meet, we're going to embrace, we're going to invite in the inner doubter, that part of us that leads to imposter syndrome, the part of us that we don't really like, that we wish would just go away, that we assume no one else has but us, that gives us all the negative messaging. We're going to turn and we're going to face it and we're going to accept it. Okay, why do we accept it? Well, I'll go through the steps. You'll see why. The first thing we're going to do, step one, is we're going to celebrate your inner doubter. Why? Why on earth would we celebrate this voice that's telling me I'm not good enough? Because if you were going to the same job at the same time, at the same place, with the same people, doing the same tasks that you know off the back of your head, day after day after day after day, you wouldn't have an inner doubter, right? But because you're stepping, if your inner doubter is talking to you, there's only one reason why. And it's because you're stepping into an arena that's bigger or brighter or bolder than ever before. You're leaving your comfort. You're leaving your familiar. And that is to be celebrated. Step two, you're going to acknowledge your believer. Oh, what does that mean? What's my believer? Someone has given you this role because they believe in you. Just let that settle for a moment. So someone can see something in you that maybe you can't see in yourself yet. So what if we acknowledged your cheerleader, your supporter, your believer, the person who either placed you into the role or the person who's supporting you in the role and believes you can do it? And sometimes that's a team member or a peer. It's not even the person who put you in the role. Step three, you're going to create a success and a challenge timeline. So you're going to look back over your career and you're going to pinpoint all the successes you've achieved in your career, all the successful moments, the successful choices, the accomplishments that you've achieved throughout your career, and you're going to write them all down. Then you're going to look at the skills and strengths that you may have used when creating those successful and those achievements, successes and achievements. Then you're going to go back over the timeline again, and without falling into any emotion, you're going to keep using your intelligent mind, your rational mind, your logical mind. You're not going to fall into an emotional mind state. You're going to stay very rational. You're going to zoom out. You're going to look at the times throughout your career you were challenged, when it was hard, and you navigated yourself through. Because here's the thing, we don't actually expand or transform very much when everything's puppies and rainbows and sunshine, right? We grow when things were hard. So I invite you to go back through, look at when you were completely challenged, you navigated yourself out, and what skills, strengths, gifts emerged from that. Was it more resilience? Was it more courage? Was it more confidence? Was it more self-belief? What emerged for you from those challenges? Then step 4, you might start to see some gaps. So what do I mean by gaps? Well, there's nothing that is going to help you feel more confident, less doubtful. There's nothing that, what will help really accept that imposter syndrome and bring it in and own it and quieten it down, though, is that we start to fill the gaps. So you might now you've got this list of skills, strengths, and gifts, you might be thinking, okay, I'm looking at this, oh my gosh, my imposter syndrome is just quiet now. It's just gone. I can see how amazing I am. Great. Or you might be thinking, I can see how amazing I am. Imposter syndrome still kind of talking to me, and we respect it and celebrate it. Okay, why are you still talking to me? Why are you telling me? Well, I think if you had this, you'd be more successful, you'd be more effective, you'd feel better, you'd feel more confident. Okay, all right. So now I'm going to go out and I'm going to fill those gaps. And this is what I was talking about earlier, about being all in. I'm going to level up and I'm going to fill those gaps. Then, so you've got your beautiful list of all these beautiful traits that you hold. You've put plans in place to fill some gaps. That's just going to make you feel even more amazing. So now you're going to own your worth and you're going to move forward. What's the result of going through the acceptance method? You're going to feel more whole and you're going to feel more worthy. You've embraced your inner doubter. You've said, you're part of me. I love you. I'm not going to ignore you anymore. I'm going to take your messaging, but I'm going to look at it very critically. I'm going to go through the 5 steps, and then you're going to be silent. You're going to be quiet, but you know what? I can see that you're part of me. And you know what? Next time you step into even a larger arena, it's going to come out again. So I'm told by leaders right up the top of the tree, this self-doubt never goes away. And it actually can get a bit louder as you go further up the tree because you have less peers, right? Less people to lean on. It's lonelier. So it grows a voice, right? But we can work with it. And if you integrate your imposter or your inner doubter, now you're more whole as a whole human being. And when we're more whole, what are we? We're more worthy. We feel more whole. You have a deeper understanding of your value, what you're bringing to the table, to your team, to the organization. You will stop trading time for worth. I'm just going to work longer, and you'll stop doing that. You'll stop working longer and harder to kind of prove your worth. You'll start creating some beautiful boundaries around work and home because you'll be showing your worth throughout the entire day. You won't need to be doing this extra work and using this extra time, which of course, now you're going to be less doubtful. The imposters quietened right down. This is going to, you're less afraid. This is going to make your work life so much more enjoyable. Leading your team, so much more enjoyable. Or going for the next, the next role, stepping into a leadership role, so much more enjoyable. And when we're kicking goals, when we're happy, when we're being effective, when we understand our value, we're showing our worth, other people notice. Remember back to Catherine, 2 promotions in a year, right? So people start to notice, and then other opportunities come your way, whether they're within your organization or outside your organization, because, hey, people talk, industries are small, and those opportunities often come with more money, right? So now we're also being more greatly rewarded for the value and the worth that we're bringing to the table. Please give me a why in the chat box if this approach is making sense to you. While you're doing that, I'm going to start into great. Yes, great. So principle number 2, how to ooze poise and confidence even when we're not really feeling it. So I was in a leadership role, and I got a phone call from my boss, and he said, can you come over to my office? And I wasn't afraid, because I'd worked through my imposter syndrome. Once upon a time, that was a very fearful phone call. And I wandered over, and he told me that there was a role that was higher than mine. It was going into a director role, had been advertised, not in our organization, but somewhere else in our industry. And he thought I should apply for it. And I'm embarrassed to say, well, it's a great story for everybody. I'm a bit over it now, but I used to be embarrassed to say, I laughed in his face. I laughed in my boss is saying, I think you should be going for this huge role because I think you're ready. And I laughed out loud. Right. My poor boss. He was a great boss too. So, and I wasn't confident. And I said to him, look, I'll think about it. And as I was walking back to my desk, I was thinking, oh, I'm not confident enough to do that. There's just no way. So this is what we say to ourselves, and it's actually what we say to other people as well. Let's be honest. I would put my hand up for the promotion, or to lead the project or the team, or deliver the presentation, or go for that director role, if only I had more confidence, don't we? We think confidence or lack of is a natural state which can't be changed. I'm told this all the time by clients. I wasn't born very confident, Janelle. I've always been a very shy child. So, I'm never going to be able to grasp this confidence you speak of. We think we have to do the thing we're afraid of before we can show confidence doing or being it. We think confidence is a requirement to moving forward, as per my example. We think there's no way we can ooze poise and confidence if we're not feeling it. Ignore what you think. Let's go. The reality. Confidence can be learned at any age. Yes. Are there people born with kind of this natural confidence? Yes. But were they really, or were they just raised that way? Right? We never know unless you knew them as a child and you know their parents intimately. You're probably never going to know. Confidence is a skill like any other skill. And like any other skill, it can be learned, and it can be learned at any age. In fact, you could be practicing it 1 minute from the time you hang up from this masterclass. You can start practicing it instantly. Confidence is a paradox. We hold ourselves back because we don't feel confident to step into the arena, when this is the paradox. It's not confidence you're looking for to step into the arena, it's courage. Stepping into the arena over and over and over creates the confidence. Taking action in the area you want to take action in creates the confidence. Please let me know if that makes sense. Confidence is not a requirement to moving forward, as we've just seen, as I've just explained. And we get to decide what our emotions mean. Okay, what do I mean by that? So I used to run whole day workshops on confidence, just on this topic. And before I run a masterclass or a workshop or anything, I'm very particular about the wording and what that word actually means. What actually is the definition? Because if I'm going to go out and talk about it, I've got to know intimately what it means, right? What it is and what it isn't. So when I started diving, so I know I'm jumping ahead. So from running these workshops, there's something that I identified, and every single person I've had in a workshop agrees. And I haven't put it on the table and asked them whether they agree or disagree. I had an exercise where it came forth for themselves, which we don't have time to do right now. So, but I want you to think about this. After you've hung up from today, I want you to go away and make a list of all the feelings in your body that you experience when you're afraid. Then make a list of all the feelings you feel in your body when you're excited. You may or may not be amazed. I'm not going to put words in your mouth or thoughts in your head. So many of them cross over. So many of the feelings of being afraid of something or excited about something are the same. You get to decide what these feelings, the butterfly in your tummy, the shaky hands, the rapidly, bit more faster beating heart, you get to decide what that means. And we can, I'm here to tell you, we can show poise and confidence without feeling it. Oh, isn't this beautiful? When I started researching the definition of confidence, this is what I found. The feeling awe, showing certainty in something or someone. You don't have to be feeling it to show it. And you're not faking anything. It's in the definition, the feeling or the showing. So you can go out and you can start to act confidently, even with the butterflies and the shaky hands and the heart that's beating a little more faster than it was 5 minutes ago. So I love, love, love. So now I want to introduce you to the CC method, the cultivating confidence method. Again, Janelle Ryan method, because I love everything to be shorter and really easy to understand and really easy to do. Number one, you created a beautiful skills, strengths and gifts list when you were looking and meeting your imposter in the imposter syndrome part. Grab it, get it out, look over it again, and then pull out or highlight or circle those traits you possess that you can use to step into this thing that you're looking for more confidence in, right? Pull them out, write them down, highlight them, celebrate them, use them, right? I have all these skills that I'm going to use to step into this arena that I'm not feeling very confident stepping into. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to practice a visual mental rehearsal, which is not to be confused with visualizing. Visual mental rehearsal uses all of our 5 senses. We put ourselves in a situation, usually with our eyes closed, where we put ourselves in the situation you want to be in and you want to feel really confident in your mind. If you stay until the end, I'm giving you a resource. One of the bonuses is going to help you with your visual mental rehearsal. Our minds don't know the difference between something being real and something being imagined. So the more you can bring this forth in your mind thinks, oh, we've done this before. Oh, we've done this before. Oh, we've done this before, right? So when you actually step in to do it, you'll feel more confident because you've practiced. So not only are you going to practice in your mind, you are going to practice in person, right? Whatever the situation is for you, if it's going into an interview, find someone to do role play with you, right? Find someone to practice with you. If it's giving a presentation, I used to, no joke, and I've had clients do this since, and it's worked for all of us. I used to line up the kids' stuffed toys on the bed and do the presentation in front of the stuffed toys, right? Anyway, practice in front of friends, practice in front of family, whatever it is you want to step into that you're not feeling very confident in, find someone who's done it already. Practice with them, practice as much as you can in person. Then you're going to really harness and embrace those feelings, and you're going to switch them from nerves or doubt or fear to excitement. And then you're going to dive in. You're going to do the thing. You're ready. You're prepared. You're going to dive right in. And then you just repeat as required. Okay? This is just a rinse and repeat method. What's the result of using the CC method? You will be oozing poise and confidence anytime you feel like it. You'll be rocking up to the networking event, just looking like you're the beautiful swan, even if your legs are doing this under the water. No one will know, and you're not faking a thing because you don't have to be feeling it as per the definition. So give me a yes if that made sense in the chat box. Principle number 3. Here it is. It is how to elevate your emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the number 1 competency organizations are looking for right now in new recruits. Now, we think, remember, we're thinking differently today. We think that if we cry at work, we must have terrible emotional intelligence. If we blow our top, maybe yell, or not very nice to somebody at work, we must have terrible emotional intelligence. We think that if we just walk around and it's all puppies and sunshine and we're positive and we never say anything negative and we always look on the bright side, we think that means we must have really good emotional intelligence. Remember, we're ignoring what we think, right? The reality, emotional intelligence is the recognition and understanding of all your emotions and how they impact others. We are human beings. We are not human machines. We are designed to feel emotion. People with those leaders that you see, who you're in awe of because they're calm in a crisis and they step in when there's conflict and clean it all up and sort it out, and it's a win-win for everybody. You're just in awe of those leaders. Now, I'm here to tell you, because I work with leaders that have extremely good emotional intelligence in the workplace, that's not what's going on inside. So often they are triggered, they are activated, emotion has arisen in them. They have learned how to manage their emotions. Okay, so that is what good emotional intelligence is. Now let's flick the switch. So we're talking about crying at work, being angry at work. For our purposes and emotional intelligence, right? For our purposes today, I want to talk about fear, because this is a masterclass to slay self-doubt and to help you become a more effective, confident, authentic leader, right? And so often we haven't stepped into that because of the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, the lack of confidence. That is also an emotion, and the emotion is fear. Self-doubt is an emotion. So when we feel those emotions, what we usually want to do is hide. Now, we will hide physically. We won't put our hands up for certain things, as we've just talked about. We won't probably go and have that really tough conversation with that person that works for you whose performance isn't where you really want it to be. Right? So we hide physically, we don't go and do the things, and we also can hide mentally. We might be in the meeting, but we won't put our idea forth, or we won't put our point of view forth, or we won't disagree with someone. So we're hiding. So I encourage you to, so this isn't great emotional intelligence at work. Like, you're thinking, it's okay, I never yell and I never cry. I just keep to myself and I just do my thing. Well, if you're doing this, if this is your level of emotional intelligence, how effective are you for your team? Right? You've got to be able to say, this is our vision, this is where we're going, this is where I'm going, come with me, and lead them into the vision. So we can't do that when we're hiding. So this is the tool. Emotional intelligence is a really big area, but this is, I'm giving you a tool today. I've given you a tool for every one of these principles. So this is the emotional intelligence tool. I encourage you to keep an emotional diary. Okay, so the first, there's some criteria of how we can elevate our emotional intelligence. And the first one is self-awareness. So grab a beautiful journal or a diary and carry it around at work with you. If you work from home, so many of us are hybrid now, working from home, which makes it a little easier because you can just have it in front of you and no one can see it. Get really, really self-aware. Who triggers you? Which situations trigger you? What upsets you and why? Write it down. So this, I call this the noticing. So we just at the beginning, when we're looking at our emotional intelligence, we don't dive straight in and try to change things. We need to know where we're at and where we're starting from and where we want to go. So this is the first part, and this is the tool that will help you immensely, the emotional diary. The next part, people with very elevated emotional intelligence can self-regulate. We just talked about that. So this is where we tap into our personal power and we are able to stay steady and strong and able to adapt to all situations. The third part is motivation. So this is when you can't be knocked off course. You have your vision for your career or your vision of who you are going to be as a leader or who you are as a leader or who you want to be as a leader. You've got your goals for yourself, for your team, for your department, for your division. Things are going to happen around you. That's life and that is work. We work with other people. Other people do stuff, right? So things are going to happen around you. People with really elevated emotional intelligence can stay the course. So look at that. Can I remain in my vision throughout the day? And can I bring myself back? And it's just, you're just noting this stuff down. This is just the noticing. Number 4, empathy is a big part of emotional intelligence. Instead of just flying off the handle or getting upset with this person in front of me or wanting them to stop talking so that I can put my point across because I'm right and they're wrong, can I see another person's point of view? The beauty of focusing in on someone else's point of view right from the outset is it keeps you in critical, intelligent thinking. Can I see another person's point of view? That's a very intelligent question. It's a very rational thought. And if you stay in that thought, grow curious, listen to what they're saying, make notes, think about where they might be coming from, it's nearly impossible to fall into an emotional state and emotional thinking. So this is going, the anger, the frustration, right? The you're wrong, the little child tantrum, you're wrong and I'm right. If you can stay in, okay, let me look at this other person's point of view, you're going to stay in intelligent thinking. And the 5th one is social skills. So people who have really elevated emotion, and by now I hope you can see this is a lot more than do I cry at work? Do I get angry at work? Do I hide at work, right? It's a lot more than this. Social skills. Effective, empowering, empowered, successful, authentic, inspirational leaders, they have to be able to communicate effectively. They have to be able to build and cultivate relationships, collaborate with other people, and be able to handle conflict resolution. So I really wanted to share this with you. I'm going to be sharing a few of these with you along the way now. These are things clients say to me in our calls. And when it's something I really, really love, sometimes I say to them, you're going to be my quote of the week. And I absolutely love it. And I plaster it all over social media, right? So this is something a client said to me when she decided to tap into empathy in her leadership. She was very triggered in her new leadership role. And we decided to try these steps. And she came back to our next call and said, the conversation was so much more fun. I'm so happy I approached it with empathy rather than ego and puffing out my chest, right? Rather than I've got to be right and you've got to be wrong. So that's our 3 principles. Now, how long have we been going? Hopefully not too long. So I wanted to just give you as much value as I could. Let me ask you, what if you did silence your imposter syndrome? What if you took these tools, used them, and started oozing poison confidence in every area of your career? What if you actually took yourself through these tools I've given you and elevated your emotional intelligence? How would it feel being more effective, more authentic, having a team that smashes key performance indicators out of the park. I led teams, we didn't take any notice of the organisation's KPIs for us. We set our own. We always thought they were too low. And they smashed them out of the park. So what would it feel, or to use my tools to go into your next interview and nail the leadership role? How amazing would that feel? So you might be thinking, yeah, but you know, it worked for them and they could do it, and it worked for you, Janelle, and you could do it, but I don't know if I could really do that. I don't know if this would really work for me. All right, so let's change the way we think. Let's mess with our thinking. What if you completely messed it up? What if your imposter, your inner doubter, just became about 50% quieter, 60% quieter, 30% quieter, 20% quieter, 10% quieter? What if you had a little bit more confidence? You're 10% more, 20% more, 30% more, 40% more, halfway, 50% more. What if you recognize the situations that you respond in a way at work, you get really emotional around them, and you think, oh, I wish I hadn't responded that way, reacted that way, I wish I could respond better. And then the next time it arises, you respond really well. But then the next time you react again, I thought I had it nailed. That's the thing about emotional intelligence. It's a long life mission. Even the Dalai Lama says he doesn't have it nailed. He's human like the rest of us, right? So even if you completely mess this up, would it still be good to have 10% more confidence, 20% more confidence, 10% less self-doubt, 20% less self-doubt, reacting sometimes to situations better than you have in the past? Yes. So I encourage you to go out and take these tools and use them. You can't mess this up. So let me ask you, are you excited about what we just talked about? Are you excited about going out, silencing the inner doubter, silencing your self-doubt, oozing poison confidence even when you're not feeling it, and elevating your emotional intelligence at work? Excited? Or does it feel a little bit like this? Right? This has been a lot. I get it. So if you are feeling a little bit like this, that is absolutely okay. That's just a cold shower. It can feel for some of you like a little bit of a smack in the face. I get it. But if you take this, watch the replay, go through everything again, write down how the tools work, and go out and apply them, it's going to make the world of difference. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move into, so that was just over an hour. I know I went a little over an hour. I wanted to cram as much in, as I said earlier, for you, as much value as I could. Now, if you're ready to go and you're going to do this yourself, thank you for being here. I'm so happy. All the very best, and I hope I see you again. If you're thinking, you know what? Someone's already navigated the forest. Someone's already been through the trees. Someone's already taken the time. I want to collapse time around this. I want someone to give me the process. I want someone to walk beside me while I elevate the leadership role I'm in, or while I elevate myself so I can grab the leadership role I absolutely desire and deserve. If that's you, then please stay with me now, because I have the most beautiful offer for you. Brand